Good evening and welcome to This Week in Atheism. I am your host, Dennis Horvitz. This Week in Atheism is a panel discussion centered around articles usually taken from The Focus, which is an e-magazine put out by the Center for Atheism. If you would like to receive a copy of The Focus, just send an email to focus@centerforatheism.org. As I said, it is a panel discussion, so I think without any further ado, I should introduce my co-panelists. On my left, Genevieve Joy, an actress and a philosophy major.
Hamilton College.
At where?
Hamilton College.
Hamilton College. Free plug. And you have also been an actress. You are an actress. And on my right is Omar Chumo, who is an actor as well. And, okay, so this is the general subject for this evening's show is separation of church and state, which is something that we come back to repeatedly, unfortunately, because we have to. And not enough people get it, but I know that Omar's going to get real mad when I start reading this article, because when we get into the subject, this is very dear to your heart.
I have to be sedated.
Very dear to your heart, I know. So this is a very short, this is kind of like dealing with a fine-tuning of separation of church and state. This is from the Associated Press. It's from a site called, I guess it's from a TV the site from a TV station WAVY TV 10 in Hampton Roads, Virginia. It's from a segment called On Your Side, and the title of the article is "Lawyer for Jailed Priest Says Case is a Church Matter." And from Louisa, Virginia, a Catholic priest accused of stealing money from 2 Louisa County churches is asking a judge to dismiss the charges. The Reverend Rodney Rodas argues that it is a matter of separation of church and state. Rodas faces 13 charges stemming from the theft of as much as $1 million from donations to the 2 churches from 1995 until he retired last year. His lawyer, John Mouse, filed a motion in Louisa Circuit Court to dismiss the charges, arguing that the U.S. Constitution bans the government from interfering in church matters. Mouse argues that as a priest appointed by the Diocese of Richmond to administer the 2 parishes, church law grants him a certain authority to handle the money for the 2 churches. Louisa County Commonwealth's attorney Don Short says that being a priest doesn't make someone immune from criminal prosecution. Rodas remains in jail pending trial, which is scheduled for October 1st of 2007. Okay, here's my reaction, and then I'll get your reaction. The priest and his lawyer are, as a college professor of mine said, full of a substance, the contents of which I shall leave entirely to your imagination. If a member of the clergy, say, murders another clergy person or a lay person, it's still a state crime. The state may not promote or prohibit the practice of religion, but prosecuting the priest for larceny of church funds does not interfere with either the priest's or the church's right to practice religion, nor does it interfere with or impose secular doctrine on religious doctrine. Am I right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Is that really a question?
I was really wondering. I'm glad that all the pedophile priests didn't use that kind of defense, because they would have been thrown out of court,
Well,
yeah, but they still, pedophile priests for a long time before, it was handled internally. The church doesn't want the world knowing that their priests are corrupt, so they try to handle it internally.
Well, you know what?
It's an embarrassment to the whole establishment.
But okay, I think we should qualify that. So first of all, it's not all priests that are pedophiles or corrupt.
Not at all.
I'm
talking about the ones that are.
But this is what about this though? This is a question of this priest is trying to use separation of church and state to get out from under being prosecuted for theft. So whether it's against the church or whether it's against an individual,
theft is theft. It doesn't matter where it happens.
It is a state crime.
Yeah, exactly. He might go to hell because he stole, I guess he's not so concerned about that. He wants to save his skin in this life.
Well, he should come talk to us. 'Cause he should come talk to us because we
don't
don't believe in hell.
Exactly. But I'm sure that the judge is just going to dismiss the charges and just go ahead with the prosecution. I mean, this is who would have drummed up that kind of defense, though? Who are the lawyers advising this nut? Did they even think they had a shot?
Well, first of all, when you're a lawyer, you got to do what you got to do, and under our system of justice, every defendant has a right to acquittal, and that's the lawyer's job. I mean, look how many people criticized Johnny Cochran during the OJ trial. I mean, you know, it's
but in this case, come on, the pretext of the whole thing.
The pretext
is laughable.
It is. Well, you know, but you never know. I mean, there could be some gray area. I doubt it. I doubt it.
You know what? The community may not want to be bothered. They may not want to be upsetting the church, and they may let it slide.
Well, who brought up the charges? I mean, how did they end up in court?
It might have been that's a good question. It doesn't say so. I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Not a member of the church. It was probably somebody that. Just...
we have a question from the Peanut Gallery.
We have both the Muslim group and the Jewish Orthodox group have their own private court systems.
Right.
And for example, in New York City, in civil matters between two Hasidic people, they will settle it with their own court system, and it's recognized in our law.
Right, but
so in other words, it's within the community. So
I think in this case, like I said, a non-member of the church brought it outside of their system to the to society, to the court system, and that's why it's
I think that, for instance, when you have either a Muslim or a Jewish religious court, both parties have to agree to abide by the ruling of the court, right?
Yes.
But if one person from that community commits theft against another person in that community or against the house of worship in that community, and the offended party decides decides to go to the state system, that's it. You know, I mean, they got
tremendous pressure.
Yeah.
To say two Hasidic Jews to work within this court system, even though they don't want to.
Right. There may be tremendous pressure to do it, but once it's out, it's out.
For some reason or another, one makes the decision not to. I mean, if you get sued, you have to deal with it.
Exactly.
If you have a problem and you're like, oh, let's handle it internally, and the offendee says no, then you don't have a choice anymore. You have to deal with it.
I mean, you have that option, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
Here's my concern.
That's not the
There's a different sentencing in law for specific acts. So if someone, for example, steals money from, let's say, a business person, these are all civil actions. They're only civil actions, not criminal. That's what they call civil actions.
Right.
Let's say that they embezzle in the company.
Right.
If they handle in this court, the embezzlement may be just shunning the person, whereas in the normal court system, it could be 5 years.
Yeah, it could be.
And so you're now setting. See, the problem is you have to have one legal system.
Well, not necessarily though, because yes, we should have one legal system, but on a level, if the person who has been embezzled against. I don't know if there's a name for that.
I mean, as long as they take care of it among themselves.
Whoever is the offendee, in real life, outside of these societies, people don't necessarily press charges. So let's say they're aware of their own court system, that if they go to a Hasidic court and I'm the one who's been sinned against, or offended, or I'm the one
or the victim of a crime.
I'm the victim.
Right.
If I'm the victim, thank you, and I take it to a Hasidic court, I'm aware that this person is probably going to get some kind of, Hasidic.
Some kind of religious,
sanction on their sentence.
Right.
Exactly.
And if I'm really that upset about it, I have every right to take it to the state.
Yeah, you have the option.
Supposing she decides to do both.
Right.
Would that be double jeopardy under the law? I don't think so.
If I'm a Hasidic Jew and I'm the one that's the victim, it's my choice whether I want to press real charges or, Jewish charges. And if I don't, then that's my own problem. If I don't press charges at all, then that's my own problem. That this person doesn't get their
having done so, once you've made the charge in civil court, in the secular court,
then it's out of my hands, of course.
Then,
and it's.
I mean, I would have thought it would have been an internal matter too, if the diocese of the Richmond diocese had decided to handle the entire issue within their own system.
But somebody
but clearly that didn't happen because it has become now a violation of state law.
What's happening? You're hitting the underbelly by using these court systems.
Right.
On the other hand, the fundamentals will say that their law or God's law is above the national law.
Right.
You have a problem coming both ways at you. If you live in a country, there should be one set of laws. Because you can attack it from the underbelly by having your own separate courts.
Right.
And then the outerbelly say, I don't recognize your laws.
But then the argument separation.
Separation
of church and state. If I have my own church community and I want to deal with things in my own church
I don't think that applies
community,
to that because I think that if you get sentenced in a secular court system, you're going to serve your sentence. You're not going to just talk your way out of it, saying, no, but my said that my punishment shouldn't be as harsh. You know what I mean?
I'm not so much against having religious courts, as long as it doesn't interfere with the state courts.
Now we're talking about special rights for religion again.
But it's not if they have their own courts, but the state court trumps religious court, and that's what really counts.
I agree, that doesn't happen.
How? How does that not happen?
The law states that if you handle it in that religious court, the state has to agree to the
but what if the victim takes it outside?
But wait a minute. Can a Muslim court, for instance, does the Muslim court have a preference or jurisdiction if somebody commits murder in the Muslim community?
Usually, in some states that's true. In some Muslim countries, in England, for example, now it's generally in civil situations, but they're trying to do it in criminal too. They are trying to have their own court system.
See, in civil court, I don't care what they do as long as it doesn't interfere with anything else. But a criminal, anything that's anyone who commits a crime under the criminal statutes of the state ought to be prosecuted by the state.
They are.
So I don't care as long as it doesn't interfere.
Well, we can set our own court system, and the atheists should be setting their own court system.
That's what you were driving at.
Okay, so let's.
Have you been embezzled? Is that the point?
Okay, so anyway, that's one example of someone trying to use separation of church and state, which is kind of highly ironic for many reasons. But as a Catholic priest trying to get out from under it, in fact, the Catholic Church, what was the Knights of Columbus that had under God put into the pledge in the first place. So trying to circumvent separation of church and state. But going along the idea, here's an article that's appeared a couple of times recently, or different developments of it. This is from USA Today. It says, some say schools giving Muslims special treatment. Some public schools and universities are granting Muslim requests for prayer times, prayer rooms, and ritual footbaths, prompting a debate on whether Islam is being given preferential treatment over other religions. The University of Michigan at Dearborn is planning to build footbaths for Muslim students who wash their feet before prayer. An elementary school in San Diego created an extra recess period for Muslim pupils to pray.
To pray? Specifically to pray?
Yes.
I know they're allowed to
that's what they need the time for.
Well, I know that they call it like reading time or free time.
No, this is apparently...
They turn a blind eye, and if they want to pray, whatever.
And there's one more. At George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, Muslim students using a quote-unquote meditation space laid out Muslim prayer rugs and separated men and women in accordance with their Islamic beliefs. Critics see a double standard and an organized attempt to push public conformance with Islamic law.
But universities have Christian societies on campus. I mean,
the Newman Club for Catholics and the Hillel for.
They have their own
we had Hillel,
and
and in my school we also had the campus ministry. So there was. There was
a great
Christian group. There was a. So I don't really.
Okay,
see,
I don't. How are these?
How
are these funded though? That's what I.
Oh, here's how we should do it.
Donations.
donations and dues, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
and
kids
fees,
pay
yeah,
into it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you know what? If they want to have like foot baths on campus, if Muslims want to form like a jihad coalition or something on campus,
Jihad foot baths.
then
folks.
they have their own. Then they can do it just like the campus ministry and the Hillel.
Now,
does
let me
it.
ask you
But
this.
they have to do it on their own. The campus shouldn't be doing it for them.
Let me ask you this: are these are the people things like the Newman Club for the Catholics and the Hillel for the Jewish students and the what is it the
campus ministry?
campus ministry, whatever? Are these organizations being provided with state funds? Are they being funded?
No.
Okay.
Well, mine is a private school, but I think that what it is it's just like fraternities and sororities.
Yeah,
the kids,
yeah,
they have
yeah,
dues,
exactly.
and alumni
Okay.
make their
Donations and fees.
donations.
Here's the
and they-
difference: public taxpayer money is being used to accommodate these religious. This
could be handled so easily without offending anybody by saying if the Muslims want this, then they can come up with their own group and they can fund it themselves.
Well, but they're not. Apparently, the foot baths, for instance, are being built in areas of public traffic. Shower areas and things like that. Now, not in this article, I don't think. I remember reading in another article that the foot baths are the foot baths are there. Anybody is going to be allowed to use them.
Right. But it stems from their religion.
But even if I tend to doubt it, but even if that were true, the real purpose of them is for religious purpose. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with having them there. As long as, if it's there for a religious purpose, then the religious group is the one that's handling it and paying for it and doing it.
But they're not. See, that's
right,
the point.
well, that's the thing. If they're doing it, then I don't think... I wouldn't be offended if I saw a foot bath in the bath. I wouldn't use it, but I wouldn't be offended if I saw it there. I just wouldn't want my tuition going toward funding it because I don't need it, and it's there for the Muslims. And
Okay, let me...
Well, where is the outrage that the churches get tax breaks then? Why aren't we up in ours? We've grown complacent lately.
Well, that's part of the whole problem.
But nonprofits get tax breaks too, and churches do
let's
ministry.
talk about the
churches
800-pound
do-
gorilla in the room. Why are churches still getting
Because
tax breaks?
churches are up there.
See, I knew you were going to get mad. I knew Omar was going to
get
get
tax
mad.
breaks, and as long as churches are doing community service, then they should be getting tax breaks.
No. Where is the separation of church and state there?
Because there's stipulations, aren't there? I mean, the church has to be doing a certain amount of...
Thank you. No.
Okay, well, then they shouldn't, just for being a church.
Exactly.
Well, that's how
They
good night, folks.
But isn't part of the...
All right, let me just go a little farther with this. Okay, so critics see a double standard, an organized attempt to push public conformance with Islamic law. Advocates say the accommodations are legal. The whole issue is to provide for a religious foundation for those who are observant while respecting separation of church and state, says Salam al-Mariyati, Executive Director of the Muslim Public Affairs Council based in Los Angeles. Many schools accommodate the Christian and Jewish Sabbaths and allow Jewish students to not take tests on religious holidays.
Yeah, just take the ball.
Barry Lynn of Americans United for Separation of Church and State says, however, that the law is murky on these expressions of faith, and the American Civil Liberties Union says overt religious symbols like crucifixes are not legal, but whether Muslim footbaths and prayer rugs fall into that category is not clear. That's a difficult one, and quote unquote, that's a difficult one, and it's right on the edge, unquote, says Jeremy Gunn, director of the ACLU program on freedom of religion and belief in Washington, D.C.
Well, that'll be up to a secular judge to decide if it is ever brought before a court to rule on whether or not that violates the separation between church and state.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, here's an interesting thing.
If it's going to go to the court system, let the judge decide.
In any case, at the forefront of the movement is the Muslim Students Association, which has formed a Muslim accommodation task force to push for footbaths and prayer rooms. At least 17 universities have footbaths built or under construction, including Boston University, George Washington University, and Temple University. And at least 9 universities have prayer rooms for Muslim students only.
Wow.
Including Stanford, Emory, and the University of Virginia, according to MSA's website. The association did not return calls.
They all have chapels too.
Yeah. So here's Zudi, Zuhdi Jasser, a Muslim and chairman of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, which promotes separation of mosque and state, says he is concerned about the accommodations. He says unusual accommodations for one faith at the cost of everybody else doesn't fall on the side of pluralism. So
I should say that.
Well, what do we say about chapels on campus? I mean, they're everywhere. All schools have them.
It isn't. See, I think the issue here is not the presence; it's the funding.
The funding.
Wouldn't you
That's
say?
fair.
Okay,
right.
so who funds the upkeep of the chapels? Is that the campus ministry that does it, or is it the overall funds to the university?
That I don't know. That I don't know.
See, that matters because
that does matter. That
if
does
they're
matter.
if they're going to fund that, then the university should fund everything: foot baths,
Everything.
whatever, everything,
See,
everything or nothing.
And here's where it gets very sticky because it's very problematic. At George Mason University, non-Muslim students were asked to observe Muslim rules in the prayer area, such as keeping men on one side and women on the other, and removing their shoes.
That's too much.
That's just.
According to
BS,
Broadside, the school newspaper, Alyssa Carton, assistant to the vice president for student life, said the article prompted the school to order students to roll up prayer rugs when not in use and move the dividers.
Unbelievable.
See that's right, but that's right. I mean,
disregard for
yeah,
what our
they shouldn't.
radiation stands for.
First of all, there shouldn't be Muslim. It's one thing if they provide rooms during the times of prayer, but I think other times, if it's done with taxpayer money, then when people aren't praying, they should roll up their prayer rugs and put away the dividers, and it's an open room. Yeah. I mean, that's what they should do.
Let's file a lawsuit in Virginia. Come on down to Virginia and let's do it.
All right.
Prayer time is like 5 times a day. In Muslim.
I mean, if they want to go to the gym and do that, whatever, on their own time, then that's fine.
Can't they do it in their dorm? Do they really need to, like... Do they...
I mean, listen, it is a fact of life that religion is here. So, like I said, we were debating before about why churches get tax breaks. It appears that
they just do.
It's just gonna keep happening. Then I mean, I don't know what the solution to this problem is. I really don't know what we can do.
I don't see
like
that,
a snowball, getting bigger and bigger. And
I don't see that there should be a separate recess to allow students to pray. I think
but it's happening. So unless somebody files a lawsuit and
but what do they
follows
do?
through,
They do that for Jewish people. They'll say it's Yom Kippur. If you are Jewish, raise your hand if you won't be in class, and it's an excused absence. They make exceptions for religious things, so why not give
they
a
are
Muslim
not
kid
they are
an
not
extra
forcing
recess?
but they are not forcing non-Jewish students to conform to Jewish religion.
So then why don't they just say, if you're Muslim, you can have a recess between this time and this time? Right. I mean, does it disrupt class? Yes. Mm-hmm. Does it, it sort of disrupts class and it's an inconvenience, but they kind of have to do that if they're going to do Yom Kippur and if they're going to honor Christian.
But to accommodate a student for being out for a religious holiday on a test for a test, for instance, it's one thing to accommodate. It's another thing for taxpayer money to be used to enforce a religion. Staying out.
How is that enforcing a religion?
It's not if you allow someone to stay out for a religious holiday and not take a test or take it another day. That isn't enforcing a religion, but this is to use taxpayer money.
You use taxpayer money, of course, to install.
Yes, that's the point.
To reserve the space just for them. Of
if
course,
our core system is not there to support and to
I was talking
carry out the
to
laws,
the recess thing for prayer time.
Well, even so, but even so, that would be again using the state to enforce a religion, and unfortunately, we've got to enforce our time. We've got a couple of minutes, but let me just go to the end of this, and we'll see what we can do here. If you have any additional comments.
Well, I just had an observation that this is what happens when religion is also in the free market. You have all kinds of religion competing to get converts, to get people, and this is what you have. You have to accommodate people from different belief systems.
We live
in a free society, right?
Everywhere.
Exactly. Since it's not a religion sanctioned or a state-sanctioned religion in this country, since there is no state cannot ban religion, then we have this free market of religions.
Would you agree that there's a difference between accommodating a religion and promoting a religion. Because it seems
it's a very
think
fine
that's the
line.
debate.
it is
That's
a very fine
the
line.
debate.
Well, it said in the beginning of the article that this is a very gray area.
Very gray.
Again, we're moving into the gray area of
netherworld.
running out of the netherworld of running out of time.
We'll have to come back to this one.
We'll have to, and we will. Separation of church and state is going to be an issue for the foreseeable future.
First, I have to take a footbath, though.
Yeah, we'll have atheist footbaths and we'll film it. I don't think so. You've been watching This Week in Atheism, brought to you by the Center for Atheism. I have been your host, Dennis Horvitz. I want to thank Genevieve Joy and Omar Manchumo for joining us as our panelists. And thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week on This Week in Atheism.